All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today for our South Central Illinois Continuum of Care point in time count training. You may also hear that referred to as the PIT count. Those are both the same things. It's kind of an interchangeable term there. If you were with us last year, this is going to be a refresher for you. Nothing has changed with how we're counting, the information we're collecting, what we're reporting, any of those things. So it'll be very similar to last year. If you're new, please feel free to ask questions when you need to. That's fine. Dolores, will you put your email in the chat for me, and I'll make sure that I get that email over to you. So welcome. Introductions. My name is Jess Pauley. I work with the COC, which basically is just a group of providers across the central portion of the state that do the same things that you guys do there at CEFS. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing it so I can forward this to Dolores real quick. But the continuum of care is basically a big group of providers. We write grants together so that we can get grants for homeless services across the COC. We do cover 18 counties from the Mississippi River clear over to the Indiana border. And let's Dolores real quick. Okay, Dolores, I forwarded that to you, so let me know in a second if you don't get it, okay? So it's a big group of providers that are doing the same things that you guys do. And so what we do is we've also split it into 3 different regions because the area is so large and it's kind of hard to, work with 18 counties at one time. We have it split into 3 regional lead agency regions. So you guys are there in the central region with CEFS. IRBA is to your east in the eastern region, and then Illinois Valley or IVEDC is to your west. So that's kind of the main agencies that you probably deal with. During this training, if you guys have to, jump off and take a call or any of those things, please feel free to do that. Just keep yourself on mute if you have to do that. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll check that. Or also just take yourself off mute if you need to and ask your question. Okay. Right. So point in time count or PIT count, what is it? So COCs, so that group of agencies that I talked about earlier, that big group of all the agencies that are doing the homeless services, were required by HUD to plan and conduct a point in time count of persons in our geographic area. So HUD is our funding source, one of our main funding sources. They give us our grant money. They help us serve our clients, right? They require us to physically count all the individuals that we know that are homeless on one specific day per year. So after we've done all this counting, then we compile this data and we submit our data to HUD through their website. A number of our funding levels are based off of our need. So it's really important that we get an accurate count to be able to show, hey, this is the need we have in our community to serve all of the individuals. Okay, so it's important that we get an accurate count. So what do you do first, right? These are some things that you guys can start doing now, actually, before, a couple weeks ahead of the point in time count. But it's important to make sure that you've contacted some of those local agencies that you know of in your communities that give out hotel vouchers, that maybe house homeless individuals, kind of let them know who you are, what agency you're with, and what we're going to be doing when we count. It's good to also contact law enforcement officials to let them know what we're doing and what day the point in time count is. Also, local hotels are maybe a good resource for you to contact, just kind of give them a heads up of who you are and what we're going to be doing. And then you can also review point in time logs for locations to visit during the point in time count from previous years. So there should be some records somewhere. I probably have some if you guys don't have, if you can't find them from your offices. But each year we keep a point in time count log that gives an idea of all the places that we want to go count and also like a time that we counted there. So previously we kind of go through that list. That's kind of like your checklist. So if you've never done this before, you go through it. Okay, I need to go to the gas station, the laundromat, the library, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So if you cannot locate your point in time count log for your office or for their region, let me know and I can see if I've got it through an email. Okay. We will also be completing the risk factors form, which is the exact same form as last year. So what this form is, and I will show you all these documents at the end. You guys also have that email, so you can look on it there. The risk factor form is what we use to kind of survey frontline staff to get an idea of what they're seeing with individuals. Okay. So that is something that as frontline staff, you guys could fill out one as well if you'd like. We also ask that you provide those to like the hotels, the motels, maybe Salvation Army, maybe some churches, anybody that you know of that sees homeless individuals that, could come to them for assistance. What this form does is it asks 5 different questions on what they're seeing, like in trends, if it's what's making people become homeless, what can we do to make the biggest impact, etc. So we will go over that in just a couple minutes, but after you've completed those forms, please submit all your documentation to Jody, which is, I believe she's the one that's taking over for Cindy Meyer, used to be in that position. But send it all to Jody, and then Jody will get it over to me. Okay. And those forms the risk factor form can be completely anonymous. We do not have to have the individual's name or where they're from if they don't want to provide that. So. All right. And then in preparation for the count, so this is probably like 2 to 3 days out from the count. Some ideas of things to get you ready. Okay. Number 1, make sure you have enough copies of the PIT survey, which we'll go over that in just a second. Number 2, maybe make a copy of your point in time log. So that's kind of your checklist of areas that you're going to count. And also discuss a plan as to who's going to count where and at what time. And then that kind of goes into the third point there. Make a plan as to who's counting at what time, what area. So this slide right here was put into place by our lived experience work group. We had some feedback from them that this was really important that they wanted us to share with the group. Okay. So cultural competency, that can be defined as a set of values, behaviors, attitudes, and practices within a system that enables them to work cross-culturally among the system. Okay. So what that is basically saying is sometimes due to cultural boundaries, questions may be deemed as inappropriate. So we always need to be respectful of individuals' boundaries. We always need to make sure that we're asking for consent before we begin questioning them about their experience. They are allowed to answer or not answer any question that we ask them, right? So make sure that if somebody's like, I would rather not answer that, that's fine. Skip it, go to the next question. No big deal at all. Also, please be mindful of individuals' privacy, especially if they're in a group of several individuals. They may not want to answer those questions with everybody listening to their answers. So if you are surveying an individual and they're with a big group, just ask them, hey, do you want to step to the side so that we can be a little bit more private? Just make sure that we're being very thoughtful in our way that we're interviewing people. And as I said before, make sure that we gain consent. So consent is defined as permission for something to happen or an agreement to do something. So in order to get consent to fill out these surveys, number 1, please be kind, right? Number 2, please explain why we're gathering this information. What is this information going to do? Why do we need it? Those kinds of pieces. And then ask the individual if they want to answer the questions or not. If they say no, that's fine. We'll talk about what to do then in just a minute, but always make sure that they have the choice and that they feel comfortable. So during the actual physical count, safety is the number 1 priority. Okay? You guys' safety is our priority. So feel free to, wear a mask or social distance if you're, comfortable with that. Please do not go alone. Make sure that you're always going in groups of at least 2 individuals just for safety reasons. Make sure that somebody knows where you're at if you're out surveying. The second point there is please do not wake up someone who's sleeping. If someone is sleeping, we'll talk about what to do to kind of document, where they were at. But if somebody's sleeping, please don't wake them up. We don't want anyone to feel unsafe at all. And number 3, please remember to treat all individuals with dignity and respect. You guys do a great job of that. It's just a good reminder for everyone. The count starts with the point in time survey form. So on that form, which we'll look at in just a minute, please make sure to write legibly, okay? So right now we do use this paper system. So the form that you write on gets sent to, your supervisor, so Jody, and then Jody, faxes that to me or sends that to me. So if the form is not legible, if it's been scanned in a couple times and it's really hard to read, we may not get accurate data. So please, please, please write as legibly as possible. Also, On all of the forms that you fill out, please write the agency, the county, the region, and the person completing the survey. So we'll look at the form in a second, but everything at the top that tells me whose form that was and who filled that out and from what agency, please write, make sure that you fill that in on all the forms that you complete. I understand you may have a stack of, 5 or 6 or whatever. But sometimes when they get scanned over or when I'm, compiling the data, they can get shuffled around, and it's just really easy for me to be able to look at the form. Oh, okay, that goes with CEFS. No big deal. So please make sure you write that on the form, even though it feels competitive or feels repetitive. On the form, we do have check boxes, so that makes it easier for you. You guys are able to check the boxes on there on a lot of the questions. And then finally, when you're doing the count, please bring information on to provide to the homeless individuals that we find on how to contact our coordinated entry access points. So how can they get assistance? How can we help them? So we're not just necessarily like gating their information and then just walking away. We're also giving them a resource that they can call, the office and do an intake and all those pieces as well. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Don't see any in the chat. All right, we'll go ahead and go on. If you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat or feel free to take yourself off mute. So the point in time survey questions, they are exactly the same as last year's questions, and we'll pull that up on the screen in just a minute. Here's the information we'll be gathering. On the survey form itself, you will see a section that talks about a sponsor. So what a sponsor is would be if somebody is staying in a hotel, maybe they're at the Motel 6, right? And it's being paid for by a church or an agency. That church or agency would be that sponsor, okay? And so when we have that situation where we find somebody that's staying in a hotel that a church is paying for, it's important for us to also gather that sponsor information because we need to pinpoint in our data who paid for that hotel that the client is staying at. So when you're doing that form, you'll see on there 4 different categories. The first one is the name of the church or the agency. The second is the address. The third part is the contact name and phone number. So who can I get a hold of if I have other questions about this agency? And then the fourth thing would be the towns that the agency serves. So if it's a church, it may just be one town, right? If it's Baptist church, it may be like Effingham or whatever. However, if it's like the Salvation Army or something like that, they may serve a wider region. So it could be multiple counties, it could be multiple towns. So just use that as it makes sense to your situation with what agency that they serve. All right, and then this part, the chronically homeless question, is probably one of the questions that I get the most during the point in time count as to how to include this or how to count this, okay? So during our point in time survey, we are trying to figure out if we have any individuals who have been chronically homeless, okay? To meet that definition, number one, the individual has to be disabled, okay? So if you're filling out their survey questions and they do not have a disability, then the answer for their chronic homeless question is no, okay? They have to have a disability to even be included in this discussion. Now, if they do have a disability, there are 2 types of chronically homeless situations that can apply, okay? Both of these situations, we're trying to see if this individual has been homeless for 12 months total. That's what we're trying to get to, right? That's our end goal to see. So the first one, which is the chronic homeless, the first question there is, have they been homeless consistently for 12 months, from January clear through December, right? Something like that. 12 months straight through, have they been homeless that long for 12 months? The second question looks at it in a bigger time frame of 3 years. So over that 3-year time period, has that individual been homeless for a total of 12 months through that 3 years? Okay. So again, if they're not disabled, just put no for this question. But if they do have a disability, then go ahead and, dig a little deeper and see if they've been homeless for a total of 12 months over the past 3 years, essentially. Okay. Are there any questions on this? This is usually the biggest question that we have through it, is on what to mark for chronically homeless. So, okay. And we can discuss that a little bit further when we look at the form as well. So schedule of the count. Our point in time count this year is on January 22nd. Okay. We are looking for where that individual slept on the night of the 22nd. So technically we have to have a 24-hour period that we're saying that we're counting. So we're starting it at noon on the 22nd, and it will go through January 23rd at 11:59 a.m. But if you, so say you talk to somebody at 8 o'clock in the morning on January 23rd, right? You are going to ask them where they slept the night before. Okay. So we're looking at the 22nd. Where did they stay? Excuse me, on the night of the 22nd. Additionally, if you have somebody that comes into your office and fills out a diversion up to a week after, then if you ask them where they stayed on the night of the 22nd and they tell you they were homeless, they can fill out this information, please fill out a survey form on them as well. Okay. For up to a week after. Some suggestions, which these are just suggestions, you will need to work with your supervisor to figure out what's allowed and what they want you to do with time frames and all of those pieces. But we suggest you count in 4-hour blocks. We also need individuals who can contact local churches and agencies on the night of the 22nd or on the 23rd and ask if they put anybody in a hotel for that night. And it's also helpful to make a schedule of who will be canvassing when and in what areas. So the reasoning for that is so that we don't duplicate our count. We don't want to count the same individual on 4 different forms and then, have that duplicated time. So we are trying to cover a large region. So that's why it's important to make sure that we are spread out as we can to get as much of the area counted as we can. So turning in your forms, please make sure that you return all of your forms to Jody, and then she will send them over to me. I need those forms no later than February 10th. So she will give you a deadline as to when she needs those forms back from you guys. All right, questions. Do you guys have any questions before we go over the actual documents? Just a second, we will pull up those forms. Okay, so this first document that you will see on your screen is called the risk factor form. Again, this is the one that will be filled out by either frontline staff, different agencies that see homeless individuals, hotel operators, any of those people. And there's only 5 questions on here. Pretty self-explanatory. The first one is, on average, how many homeless individuals do you see at each month? The second one digs a little deeper there and asks how many of those individuals do you believe are homeless for the first time? Third, what reasons cause them to become homeless? Number 4, what can we do to help them gain housing stability, right? What's the biggest bang for our buck? What is the biggest thing that would make the largest impact? And then number 5, where do you refer homeless persons for assistance? So when you talk to those hotel operators or the library or whoever, frontline staff that sees homeless individuals, please have them fill this out and then get it back to Jody, who will get it to me. If somebody doesn't fill out every question, that's completely fine. So don't feel like, oh, they only filled out 3 questions, I can't send this over. Whatever information you've gained here, that's great. Please just send it to me. Okay. And that can actually, you guys can start working on that now. That doesn't have to be necessarily on the night of the point in time count. That can be from now up until the point in time count. Any questions on this document? Okay. So next, we will look at the actual survey form. So you will complete one of these survey forms for every household that you survey, okay? So for instance, if you find a group of individuals, maybe there's 3 individuals there, but it's all 3 single men that are just happen to be sleeping in the same area, but they're not the same household, please complete 3 different forms, okay? Now, if the household is, could be multiple people in different situations, that's fine. Just make sure you ask them if that's a household or if it's separate, okay? All right, so at the top of the screen, you guys will see where it says agency, location, interviewer, region, county, and time. That's the information that helps me identify you, your agency, and those pieces. So that's the ones that are very important to make sure that you fill out. For the region, you guys are the central region. Okay, everybody on this call is the central region. For the time, make sure you put AM or PM. That will help us make sure we're not duplicating individuals we're counting. So after you fill out that top portion, you'll actually scroll down here to where it says type of location where they were sleeping. So you will mark one of these boxes, okay? And on here, it's important to give me as much information as you can so that we don't duplicate a count. So for instance, if somebody's staying outdoors, right, I would make a check there for the outdoors, and maybe it's behind the Casey's gas station. Okay, then I would put where? Behind the Casey's gas station. So as much information as you can give us, the better. It just helps us have an accurate count. To the right, you will see where it says sponsor information. So that is for if somebody has been staying in a hotel that is paid for by the church or a different agency. That would be where you put their sponsor information. Okay. All right, so this next question talks about household size. How many people are observed staying together? So maybe you see 2 adults and a child, or you see 3 adults, or however that's split up. Please make sure you fill out right there where that goes. And then you will notice that for each person, you will have one of these boxes, okay? So these are standalone. So person 1, you fill person 1, person 2, etc. Okay. If for some reason, maybe the household's bigger than right now we have 4 people on this form, right? Then go ahead and just fill out a second form, but make sure you make some kind of notation on it to let me know, hey, this is part of household X, Y, or Z, okay? Just so we can keep them all together. All right, so looking at the form, it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, people, if they don't give you all of the information, that's fine. Take whatever information that they do give you and put it on the form for me. So on here where it says name, that's self-explanatory. If they want to give you initials, that's fine. If they don't want to provide a name, that's also fine. In that case, please put some kind of notes on here describing what they're wearing. For instance, maybe they have a purple backpack and they have a green tent, or they're wearing a black hoodie. Some way that we can kind of identify them to be able to make sure we're not duplicating our count. Okay. Got a question here in the chat. Okay, thanks, Charity. Same thing with date of birth. If somebody's not comfortable then with giving you their date of birth, that's fine. Either put their birth year or put how old they are would be fine right there. Best way to contact, so if that's cell phone, email, etc. And then contact info. How could we contact them if we need to? So for gender and race and ethnicity, these are 2 that you can check multiple options depending on what the individual reports to you. Okay. So for gender, read them the options and let them know that, ask them which what they would like you to check. Same thing with race. There can be multiple races and ethnicities there, so feel free to mark all that apply. Next here on the bottom is the household information. So the person in spot number 1 will be the head of household. So you'll click that. And then every other person will be compared to the first person, right? So for instance, if I have a single mom with a child, person 1 is the mom, so she would be self. And then person 2 is the child, so I would mark HOH's child. Okay. So everybody after person 1 is how they are in relation to person 1. Okay. Box down here is disability, yes or no. So if this person marks, they say, no, I don't have a disability. Okay, then their chronic homeless question is going to be no. You don't even have to kind of review what the chronic homeless statuses are. Okay. If somebody marks yes, then you're going to go to the chronic homeless questions. Chronic 1 is going to be, yes, this person has a disability and they've been homeless for a total of 12 months, right? From start to finish, altogether 12 months, back to back. The second one down there is chronic homeless 3. So that means that they have been homeless for a total of 12 months over the past 3 years. Okay, maybe they were homeless a month here, 2 months here, however it's split up, but over the last 3 years, they've been homeless for 12 months. All right, then down here, are they homeless due to the domestic violence? Adult survivor of DV, yes or no? Are they a veteran, yes or no? Substance abuse, yes or no? HIV, yes or no? Serious mental health issue, yes or no? And then other notes. If there's anything else that you want me to know, if somebody is not wanting to provide identifying information such as date of birth or their name, please put as much information about where they're staying, what they're wearing, those kinds of pieces right there in other notes so that we can make sure we're not duplicating them when we count. Okay, and the bottom is exactly the same. It's just for if you have multiple people in the household. Right. Are there any questions on this form? Margot asks, can the homeless person fill it out themselves and we review and ask them questions? I don't care, Margot, that's fine. I would recommend that if they are going to fill it out, please do not have them, like, don't leave it with them and come back and get it because we probably won't get the form back. So that's fine if you want to fill out this top portion and then maybe have them look at the boxes there and have them fill out. That's completely fine. Yeah, no problem. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this screen right here, and then I'm going to put up my contact information for you guys. Does anybody have any question on the count itself, on the forms, on what your expectations are for this? Okay, so here on the screen is my contact information. That's my cell phone number. So if you come up with a question that you're not sure of, either the night of the pit or whenever, reach out and let me know. You can also use Jody as a good resource to reach out to. I will send this recording to Jody. I'll also send it to everybody that I believe I have you all on the email list. I will send it back out to you guys too. So if you want to review the recording, that's fine. If you have other staff members that you would like to watch it, that's fine. Or if you're going to have volunteers that help you count, it would be fine for them to watch it as well. Okay, that is all I have for you today, guys. Thank you for joining. I will get this recorded and uploaded and sent back out to you. If you have any questions, oh, yeah. Margot also had a question. I know there's a reason we do this in the cold. Can you talk about that more? Sure. So the reason why HUD has us do it when it's cold outside is because most of the time, if somebody is sleeping outside when it's this cold, they've absolutely exhausted all of their resources, right? They don't have any family that can take them in. They don't have any other options. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that, is to try and get as much of an accurate count as possible. Good question, Margot. I will also put my email in the chat for you all. If you think of another question that you didn't think to ask when we were on the call, that's fine. Just reach out. You're welcome to email me at any time. So, but I'll stay on here for a minute if anybody has any other questions, but thanks for joining and you guys are free to go.